Good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting of January 22nd, 2026. It's 5:36 p.m. I'm calling the meeting to order. This meeting will be conducted in a hybrid format. It will be recorded and is open to the public, but there will not be any public comment tonight. We'll have a roll call to confirm quorum. Colleen, we'll start with you.
Prodler here.
Wiseman here.
Loomis here.
Hamilton here.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is review of the school committee policies. These are all first reads, so they won't be votes. So the first one is ADDA policy on criminal background checks. So there were just some minor revisions by Director DiNapoli, and not minor revisions, quite a few revisions actually. What she did was took out, there was a lot of language in here that just was a restatement of the law. And so we just made sure to add the references in for the laws and took out all of the actual language of the law. See? And then she just had a couple of edits to the main part. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this? Next one is policy CCB, line and staff relations. There were some edits by legal counsel, and I know there are just some edits in here as well, like the school committee, big O should be a little O, so we'll make that change. Are there any other?
CCB?
CCB, okay. No. Okay. Moving right along. Section D. So Director Spagna was able to go through this whole section and he made some changes. With DGA, he revised this. Does anyone have any comments on questions on the language added in DGA? And in case you're looking at the word impressed, I didn't know it had been, so I looked it up, and it's actually appropriate for this. Okay.
Is there, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I guess my question is answered, because I was going to say, should it specify the policy or practice that we used to have that that the chair and one member or two members sign the warrants before they can be processed? But it does say the majority.
It says the majority, yes.
So.
DJA, purchasing authority. Again, this was edited by Director Spagna. Does anyone have any questions or comments? DK, payment procedures, again revised by Director Spagna. Questions or comments? DKC, expense reimbursements, again revised by Director Spagna. I know in the second paragraph, again, there's a big O, school committee, and then at the bottom there's a 1, instead of 1 and 2, it says 1 and 0, so we can make those edits. Any other questions or comments?
Just very small. Town of Easton, the T is red. That's all. Right, after the red writing, then first.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's to
Because
make
it
it a
wasn't
capital
there.
letter.
Yeah.
That was a lowercase in the original policy.
Okay. Section E now, EB, safety program. One minor revision to this. Any questions or comments?
We raced through section D.
ECAC, vandalism, our legal counsel made some minor edits. Any questions or comments? ECAF, security cameras in schools. Again, legal counsel reviewed this and made some edits. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this? Okay, FFA, naming new school facilities and grounds. So usually these have very, you can see what the edits are in these policies. But the naming subcommittee and Lauren and Jim and Misha can jump in, and Nancy can jump in. There were a lot of edits on this, and it was reorganized. So I just thought showing all the edits would make it too hard to read. And you guys, please jump in. Mainly the difference, I think, was it now requires a financial consideration. There's no naming just because you're a wonderful person. And the committee's composition is specified, and the process has been really clarified. And I really want to thank you guys all for really working on this. You made a huge difference in this policy. So I don't know if any of you want to add anything to this, or?
I think if there are questions, but no.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about the changes in the policy and why they decided to go with just naming for financial contribution? Okay, so for this one, we're actually going to have the second read at our meeting next week so that we can get it approved and the naming committee can start working.
There's just a mislettered series here.
Okay, where is that? Oh, I see, ABC, it's just ABC.
It's the only one I see.
It's just that one place?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so section G, I want to thank Director DiNapoli. She spent a lot of time going through this with us. So there's a lot of these policies we're having a first read to delete because they're handled either in the collective bargaining agreement or they're handled by law. So the first one is GBEBC, gifts to and solicitations by staff. This is a first read to delete. It's handled in the ethics law and training. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that?
May I just ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Is there any benefit, maybe it's not a policy, but if we delete this, will people know where to go if they have questions about gifts they receive, or like point them to the ethics law? Or
They actually have to take, they have to participate in a training every year, a revision every year, and an actual hour-long training every 2 years.
Okay.
So it is the staff's responsibility to be aware of that. We try to remind them as often as possible, but they also have to complete the training and do that. Every year they're doing something in that training.
And they can log into that account at any point. Like if they have a question, you can log right in and it'll.
Yeah, the Ethics Commission is
whole law.
really good also about answering questions in a really timely way. They have attorneys on staff that will answer specific questions for anyone that calls, as long as it's about yourself and a clarification you have. So it's very easy to access this information.
Okay.
And once a staff member takes the course, they receive a certificate that, so there's proof that they have taken the course.
GB, staff, personnel security and safety. There was just a minor revision for this. Any questions or comments? GBI, staff participation in political activities. Again, just some slight revisions, and then obviously in the very last line where I wrote revised for MASC policy, I took that out. I actually revised this to be consistent with what's in the MASC policy manual. Any questions or comments?
In the second paragraph, second line, it just says discuss his campaign. I don't know if there's a preferred.
Yeah.
Should be fair.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be there.
Okay, thank you. Great, thank you. GBK, staff complaints and grievances. This was revised by Director DiNapoli. Any questions or comments? Okay. GCA, so this is professional staff positions. This is a first read to delete. This is not our practice or within our purview. Are there any questions or comments about that? GCBA, professional staff salary schedules, again revised by Director DiNapoli. Questions, comments? Did I miss one? Okay, GCCC, staff, family, and medical leave. This is a first read to delete because it's covered by federal law. GCCD, domestic violence leave policy, again, first read to delete because this is covered by federal law. GCE, professional staff recruiting, posting of vacancies. It was just revised to refer to the collective bargaining agreement. GCIA, staff development, again, revised by Director DiNapoli. GCJ, professional teacher status.
Just, sorry,
Oh,
the numbering is off, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, that's weird, I didn't even notice that. GCJ, professional teacher status, again, revised by Director DiNapoli. GCQE, retirement of professional staff members. So again, it was revised by Director DiNapoli, and then there was a period missing after school committee, so I'm putting that in. GCQF, suspension and dismissal of professional staff members. Again, it was revised by Director DiNapoli. GCRD, tutoring for pay. Again, revised by Director DiNapoli.
Is it now one to delete, or just we deleted?
Deleted a
We
portion.
deleted
Paragraph
the
six.
last
Deleted
paragraph, yeah,
paragraph six.
yeah.
Thank you.
Because it's in the ethics law.
Right, absolutely.
GDA, support staff positions. It's a first reading to delete. It's not necessary. It's kind of, some of these policies, it's kind of questionable why they really weren't in here, but she had suggested that we delete this. GDF, support staff hiring. Again, first reading to delete, not necessary according to Director DiNapoli. GDJ, support staff assignments and transfers. Again, this is a first read to delete. This is part of the collective bargaining agreement. GDO, evaluation of support staff. Again, first read to delete. It's part of the collective bargaining agreement. GDP, support staff promotions, first read to delete. It's part of the collective bargaining agreement.
I'm sorry, did I miss you reference GDJ?
GDJ.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yep, so D.
Okay.
I'm sorry. GDJ was part of the collective bargaining
Okay,
agreement.
thank you.
Tongue twister. Did I say GDP? First reading to delete, part of collective
Yes.
bargaining. Okay. GDQC, first reading to delete. According to Director Tenapoli, this is not necessary to be in our policy manual. GDQD, first reading to delete. It's part of the collective bargaining agreement. And that's it. You guys are awesome. So,
That was a lot of work that you guys did.
Oh, there's more coming.
yeah, but you know, we're really making really good progress.
Yes, we really are.
So, yeah, so we'll have, like I said, the policy on the naming will be on the agenda for next week to vote on. And then all these other policies will have a second read to vote on at a future policy meeting. We will have some first two policy subcommittee meeting. The policy subcommittee is meeting the first week in February, so we're going to get through another bunch of policies.
So when will the second reads come up?
We haven't set that yet.
So that's,
Yeah.
we're not doing any second reads today.
No second reads today,
Okay.
so these are all first reads, so, yeah, so I'll just send around emails to you guys to set up that. I really appreciate you being here and going through all this with me, and thank you to Mrs. Pruitt and Mrs. DeLuca,
I love my committee.
Yes.
Considering that this has been going on longer than Alicia's been superintendent.
So,
Yep. We've made some great progress though, and
Yeah.
it's
But we
been
got-
really
we-
great till I've learned so much as well
Right,
through this process.
and we've gotten a lot of help from, central administration,
Right.
principals. We've gotten a lot of help, so
Yeah.
thank you to all those people that
yeah,
helped us out.
that's made a huge difference,
You know,
because
it's-
we don't know, a lot of this stuff is not something that we deal with,
And-
so,
I mean,
There was a
sometimes
lot,
you
a
look
lot
at
of
the
divide and
date,
conquer, it was good.
yeah,
and
yeah.
then some of the dates, 2015, I don't know which one was the oldest one, but I think sometimes they just got, okay, we're just gonna keep going, and then you start looking at it, it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't
Yeah,
make
well,
sense.
this is good because we're really thinning it out too.
And then all the ones that are deleted will be in a section of this policy manual that, yes, we had these, they're deleted. In fact, there was one that we didn't even bring up tonight that had been deleted, GCC-E, that we were like, no, keep it deleted, it didn't
Yeah.
need to come back in, so, because that was one of the questions.
So in the drive with all the policies that Mrs. Pruitt organized very nicely for us. Yeah, we have a deleted folder. So if any of these policies need to come back, or if there needs to be any history about, and there's at the bottom of the files that we delete, we put the reason for the deletion, so that we have a good record going forward for this. So I will go in, make all these revisions, and then we'll schedule a second read. And we're not, so Mr. Costello from MASC is not scheduled to be here till 6:30, but I told him to text or call me as soon as he gets here. So as soon as he gets here, we'll start the second part. So right now,
Take a recess?
yep, I'm gonna make a motion. What time is it? 5:55. I'm gonna make a motion for our recess. Do I have a second?
Second Loomis.
All in favor? Unanimous. I can't believe we
Want
went
me
through
to-
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's still recording.
Okay, so it is 6:34, and we're gonna reconvene our meeting of January 22nd, 2026. We'd like to welcome Sean Costello here from MASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committees, who is going to be presenting a workshop on school committee roles and responsibilities. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Take it away.
Thank you very much for having me. So first of all, I just want to introduce myself because I don't think I've had the opportunity to interact with most of you at this point. I've been your field director for about a year and a half. I'm very excited to be with MASC. My district goes from Boston all the way down to the South Shore, Cape and Islands. So I get to work with a lot of wonderful communities. Some really cool stuff happening throughout my job right now. I just got off Martha's Vineyard. I was on the vineyard for the last 4 days last week because they are hiring a superintendent. So I get to do a lot of cool things, and it's really fun for me to be in Easton because, as we just discussed, I went to Stonehill College, so it's really a nice opportunity for me to be back in a place that I called home for 4 years, a really lovely community with a lot of good things happening in your public schools. So credit to all of you in this room for being the leaders of all of that. Before I worked for MASC, I worked at the State House for 10 years as a staff director for a state representative from Quincy, who is the vice chair of the Joint Committee on Education. But as you know, I'm also on the Marshfield School Committee, and that work has always been my passion. Public education has always been something that I've been very passionate about. So having the opportunity to do this job and provide you with professional development and training that can help you do your job to the best of your ability is something that I'm very lucky to do. So I appreciate being here. I know we have a couple topics to discuss tonight. On our agenda is, I always like to start with ethics. I know you asked for roles and responsibilities, but I think we'll probably talk a little bit about school committee member ethics first and foremost, because we all want to be ethical in our work on school committees, I'm sure. Then we'll delve into roles and responsibilities, and then I'll just wrap up by telling you a little bit about the services we provide at MASC. Some things that we can do for you, not just tonight, but all throughout the year. Some things that you may find interesting, that you may find helpful. We are always here for you to do our jobs to the very best of your ability. That's something that we find very important. So I will say one final thing too. I know a lot of the time somebody comes in and presents and you feel like you have to sit there and hold your question and say, oh, I hope I remember that question at the end. Interrupt me, please. I work just fine. I actually work better when we're conversational and when you interrupt me. If you have a thought that's important, don't let it go. I am here to answer questions. If it gets us on a tangent onto a whole other conversation for 15 minutes, that's okay, as long as you find it valuable. I will look to your chair to control that conversation if it does start to go awry, and please tell me if I'm going too far into something else that you don't care about. So all of that being said, I'm looking forward to the presentation, and again, interrupt with any questions. Yes?
Do you mind if I drop this presentation into their Google
Not
folder
at all,
so
please
that
do.
they have access to it?
Please do. I would be more than
Thank
happy.
you.
And as you'll see at the end too, we have a lot of other presentations that I'm always happy to come back and do in the future. And again, one other thing I'd like to say is I know you have your superintendent, your assistant superintendent here too. Treating them as equal partners is of course very important in the role that you do, and that should not change here. So if you feel the need to interrupt, ask questions for clarification, please feel safe and secure to do so. My job is servicing you as well as the school committee. So let's talk about ethics of school committee members. Who do you have an ethical responsibility to? As you can see here from our chart, you have an ethical responsibility to a few different distinct entities. You have an ethical responsibility to the community that you represent. Okay? That is, of course, the people who elect you, but it's also the staff of Easton Public Schools. It's anybody who has a stake in Easton Public Schools, but most importantly, it's the students of Easton Public Schools. I always like to say that school committee members, and you may have heard this chart in the course, school committee members are the most unique elected position in the entire United States of America, because your main constituency cannot vote for you. You are the only elected position where your main constituency cannot vote for you. You are elected at the end of the day to best serve students. Staff are important. Families are important. Taxpayers are important. But at the end of the day, the students matter the most. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in community. You have an ethical responsibility to the administration, to the people that you hire to run your school district on a day-to-day basis. That ethical responsibility includes knowing what your role is and knowing what your role is not. You also have an ethical responsibility to the committee itself, both as a body and to each other individually as people elected to serve together. I'm picking up a vibe that this is a cohesive committee that doesn't have a lot of infighting, and that's a really good thing. That is not the case everywhere. Just turn on the news and sometimes you can see it. But, so that's a good thing that you can say, confidently that you have that here, and that you each have different strengths and different areas that you excel in, and that you trust each other. But you have that ethical responsibility to each other individually and to the committee as a whole. And then right there in the middle, you see the members where that's all branching from. You also have an ethical responsibility to yourself. You ran for this position for a reason, right? You had values, you had things that you wanted to ensure that you were providing for in your community, that you were serving your community. That's an ethical responsibility to yourself to uphold that. So we're going to talk about those other three, but I always like to say you have that ethical responsibility to yourself to uphold these ethical responsibilities. Let's talk about a school committee member and their relations with their community. You should recognize that your primary responsibility is to the children. Again, only elected position in the entire United States of America where your main constituency can't vote for you. It's all about the kids. You should recognize that your basic function is to be policy making and not administrative. We're going to talk about the difference between policy and procedure a little bit later, but please know that there are distinct roles set forth in Mass General Law for you, and procedural items do not fall under that because they fall under your superintendent. And if you delve into those procedural items and try and impact those procedural items, you are interfering with the superintendent's ability to do her job. You should remember that you're one of a team and must abide by and carry out all the decisions of the committee once they're made. You should be well informed concerning the duties of a committee member on both the local and state level. That's what you're doing here right now. Congratulations. You should remember that you represent the entire community at all times. Again, it's all about the kids, but you are elected to represent your community and their values and their goals for public education in the town of Easton. And you should accept the office as a committee member as a means of unselfish service, with no intent to play politics in any sense of the word, or to benefit personally from your committee activities. I will not say which community, because we are on camera. But there is a community nearby who years and years ago, somebody got elected to the school committee, and it was like the worst kept secret in the world that they got elected because they wanted their husband to be appointed the head custodian of the middle school. That is not a reason to run for school committee. I'm sure that's why none of you are here. But please don't ever be that person. So what does all of this mean? Again, beating a dead horse, your first responsibility is to the students. First and foremost, all the time. You have no position beyond that of member of the committee. It does not exist beyond that. That means you have no authority as an individual. We're going to talk about that a little later too. That's always really fun for people when they get elected to the school committee. And sometimes they think, I'm going to go in and change this, I'm going to do that. You can't. You have authority as a body. You're one of 5 pieces of that body. Being a member of the committee means that you know you have other roles, but to district staff, your committee membership is always what they're going to see first. You always have to keep that in mind. How many of you are parents in the district? Okay, so 4 out of 5 of you. It's just like on my committee. How many of you are very actively involved parents with your kids' education? You would say, right? Yeah. So you go to parent-teacher conferences. I'm sure being good parents and good school committee members, you probably say to your spouse or to whoever, look, I'm going to this just as so-and-so's mother. You may say it to your superintendent and your assistant superintendent. You may say it to each other. You may say it to the principal of the building. You may say it to the teacher themselves. You could say it until you're blue in the face. You could say it 1,000 times. You could get it tattooed on your forehead. You could wear a t-shirt to the meeting that says, I am only here as so-and-so's parent. No matter what you do, no matter what lengths you go to, they're always going to see you as a school committee member. That being said, you never give up any of your rights as a parent, ever. Your service does not mean that you are less of a parent in the eyes of the district. But it is something that you have to be cognizant of. You have to be aware that they're going to view you that way. And it also means that any administrative responsibility or decision, including the management and hiring of personnel, must be redirected to the administration. You have oversight and hiring power for one person, and it's the superintendent of schools, which is, I know, something you are all discussing at length now with your superintendent's upcoming retirement. A school committee member in their relations with school administration, speaking of your administrators, should endeavor to establish sound, clearly defined policies which will direct and support the administration. We're going to talk again, like I said, about policy versus procedure and what policy is and why we say clearly defined. You must recognize and support the administrative chain of command and refuse to act on complaints as an individual outside the administration. How many of you are in the supermarket and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you're on the school committee, right? This is going on at this school and this needs to change, right? You've all experienced this. How many of you have been on for more than like a year or two? Okay, and so you two are the newest members. How long have you been on?
Almost a year.
Nice. And how long? Did you get elected at the same time?
We did.
Okay, congratulations and condolences. It's already happened, hasn't it? Yeah. It probably happened within your first 3 or 4 weeks. It happens. You can't do anything about it. When you get elected to the school committee, there's this very common misconception that you are the end-all be-all of what happens in the district, and that every single issue can and should be solved by you. That is not the case, and you must recognize that. Again, I'm sure you do. I'm not telling you that you don't. I certainly hope that you recognize that. But just telling you in plain terms, it is absolutely incumbent upon you to recognize that you can't fix every single issue in the school district. You must give the chief administrator full responsibility for discharging her professional duties while holding her responsible for acceptable results. You have a superintendent here who I know has a great reputation. You place your trust in the superintendent. You place your trust in whoever you hire to come next. And you must refer all complaints to the administrative staff for solution. What does all of this mean? Again, you act only as a member of the committee, 1 of 5. You act via agreed upon protocols and communicating with the superintendent, other administrators, and other staff. Spoiler alert, when it comes to communicating with other staff, you shouldn't be. Everything goes through the superintendent. If you have a question on a program or something that is coming before the school committee, either wait until you're in your meeting or direct that question to the superintendent and ask the superintendent to get you an answer. It is inappropriate for school committee members to be emailing staff. Again, because they're going to think that you're their boss. You're not. Jim, are you anybody's boss?
No.
Correct. Is the school committee somebody's boss?
Yes.
Yes. Good. See? Been on just less than a year and you already know that. Perfect. You must work with other members through deliberation if reports or information are needed for the community. You must stay within your 4 main areas of focus, which is policy, budget, goals, and evaluation. We're going to go over all of that at length in just a little bit. And you must refer members of the public to the appropriate district contact. So again, that person comes up to you in the supermarket and they say, hey, my kid is at so-and-so elementary school and they're having all sorts of issues. Can you do something about that? What's the first question you ask? Have you spoken to the classroom teacher about this? Well, yes, I have, and there's nothing. Okay, have you spoken to the building principal? 95% of the time the answer will be, oh, no. Sometimes people think that they should just go right to you, and they bypass everything. If the answer is, yeah, I've spoken with the building principal and I don't like it, then your next question is, okay, well, maybe you should reach out to the superintendent. They should never be reaching out to you unless it has to do with one of those 4 positions: district-wide policy, the district budget, the goals of the district itself, and the evaluation of the superintendent. And school committee members in their relations with your fellow committee members should recognize that action at official meetings is binding and that you alone cannot bind the committee outside of such meetings. You should never make statements or promises of how you will vote on matters that come before the committee. Anybody have any idea why? Because if your superintendent is asking for it to be on your agenda, there's likely going to be information that you hear at that meeting that could possibly change your first conceptions of that item. Don't ever put yourself in a position where you're making a promise to somebody about voting for something, and then you're going to hear information in a meeting later that's going to change your mind, because you're either going to vote a way that you don't agree with in order to keep a promise, or you're going to break a promise. Nobody wants to do that. You should uphold the intent of executive sessions and respect the privileged communications that exists in executive session. You should not withhold pertinent information on school matters or personnel problems, either from members of your own committee or other committees who may be seeking help or information on school problems. This is like if you guys have this really great program that's running just so well in Easton, and all these other districts are saying, hey, this could be really good for us. Do you have any information? Don't keep it secret. You're a public school. Help people perform to the best of their ability. And you should make decisions only after all facts of a question have been presented and discussed. So what does all of this mean? You act as a member of the committee even when you're in the minority position. I will tell you a little story. And I will preface this by saying this is about a person that I serve with in Marshfield. He has been on the committee 1 year longer than me, which makes him our most tenured member. He also lives across the street from me. I've known him for a long time. I like him very much. And I'm saying this on camera publicly, so it's possible someday he could see this, and that will just absolutely kill me if he ever hears me talking so nicely about him. So we had an issue that most school committees faced a few years ago during COVID, where we had to make decisions in an unprecedented time. And there was a decision that came up of whether or not to go back to school in a hybrid model or to go back to school right away, all the way back, right away. I happened to be on the side of a hybrid model because that's what the state and other folks were telling us was best. And he disagreed. He was on the side of going back fully right away. The other 3 members of our committee happened to agree with me. We deliberated. He made his opinion very well known. We made ours known. We voted. It was 4-1. And so we went back in a hybrid model. After that, he could have continued to bring it up at every single meeting. He could have tried to make motions to reconsider. He could have pointed out things he thought were going wrong in the schools as evidence that he was right and we were wrong. He could have voted to withhold funding for certain initiatives that would have helped make those hybrid models work even better. He could have done a number of different things to try and prove he was right and maintain his position. He didn't do any of it. He recognized the will of the committee had been made, and he recognized it was in the best interest of students to move forward as best as we possibly could with that decision. Again, if you ever meet Rich Greer, don't tell him that I said any of that. But please always remember that you have that obligation to support the will of the committee, even if you vehemently disagree with it with every fiber of your being. It's going to happen. Do what's best for kids. You should do your part to ensure the business of the district can be conducted in meetings, which means you stay on task and on topic. You defer to the chair in running the meeting, and the chair can then redirect things as needed. Do any of you talk a lot? I do. Yeah? Okay. Every now and then do you need a little like, hey, you said your piece. It's okay. That happens. It's her job to politely say, okay, let's keep the conversation moving, but only after she feels that your point has been made adequately and that you have had the opportunity to make your point. That goes for all of you, right? The chair is the servant of the assembly and not the master. So the chair has no individual authority. The chair has additional duties to ensure the committee is running smoothly, but the chair has no greater power than any of you. And it is up to the chair to determine, to ensure that the business of the committee is being conducted the right way. But you all have the obligation to support that as well. You should recognize that decisions that are made in a school committee meeting are a result of deliberation. Meaning you discussed it, you heard the merits of it, you heard whatever sides may exist, and you voted on it. Nothing's decided before you get here. Even if your superintendent is pushing hard for something and gets what she wanted, that doesn't mean it was decided. She knows that. You should share information and knowledge with other members to strengthen the committee and thus the district as a whole. For example, one of the hot button issues right now in education is AI. And how do we integrate AI properly into the classroom? Sometimes that means you might have to look at policies or different areas of budgets, and anything like that that has to do with AI. If you happen to be an expert in AI, don't withhold your knowledge. Share it with the committee. Make everybody better when it comes to things that you know about. And you must make decisions only after all information is shared and all matters are deliberated. Let people say their piece. Don't hear a presentation and then have somebody want to speak and say, you know what, I don't even need to hear what Jim has to say. We're just going to keep moving forward. We're just going to vote. Don't do that. I'm sure you won't, but don't. Any questions on ethics? Okay. That's our little refresher on how you should just behave as a person. Now let's get into what you can and can't do legally. So, roles and responsibilities of the school committee brought to you by Valvoline. As a committee, you have power exercised through official action at properly posted meetings. You govern through policy. You oversee the financial resources of the district as a whole. You appropriately engage the community. You sustain a positive relationship with the school committee and the superintendent. And on all collective bargaining agreements, you are the employer of record. Conversely, as an individual member of the school committee, congratulations, you have no individual authority whatsoever. In fact, you have no greater power than any other qualified voter of the town of Easton. However, it is your job to contribute to and communicate the vision and the goals of your district. It's your job to ask critical questions. And when we say critical, we don't mean questions that I'm going to corner you and I'm going to make you look stupid, make me look smart, right? That's not critical. Critical is the community needs to know this information about this item. The committee needs to know this in order to make an informed vote. That's critical information. So people can best understand what's going on in the schools and how their children will be impacted by it. You support, again, the decisions of the committee once they are made. And most importantly, you're dedicated to the work on behalf of the students. Here's a nice little chart that shows you what you can and should be doing versus what the superintendent should be doing. As a committee, you're in charge of the governance of the district. What is in your purview are the ends, the results of what you're trying to achieve in Easton Public Schools. The mission and the vision of the district, the goals of the district, the policies that govern your district, and the budget that ensures everything in the district can be carried out. The questions you ask yourselves are what, why, and how much. You are the bridge between the community that elects you and the superintendent that you evaluate. You authorize certain initiatives through a vote, and then you monitor those initiatives to ensure accuracy throughout the year. Conversely, the superintendent is in charge of the day-to-day management and operations of the district, not you, superintendent. Superintendent is the CEO of your school district. The means and the methods fall into the purview of the superintendent, the strategies, the action plans that are put into place to achieve what you have set forward to achieve, the many, many, many regulations that have to be met in order to achieve these things, and the procedures that are derived from the policies that you all pass as a committee. The questions your superintendent stays up very, very late asking herself every single day are how, who, when, and where. Your superintendent is the bridge between the staff and the school committee. The superintendent recommends initiatives, and then once you pass those initiatives, the superintendent implements them. Between these two roles must exist trust and respect. And I apologize, sometimes trust and respect gets cut off. It should look really nice right down the middle, but instead it says something that's illegible. That says trust and respect. Trust and respect has to exist in two ways. You have to trust and respect each other, right? You trust your superintendent. You respect your superintendent. I'm sure you do, right? Because when you called me to tell me that your superintendent was retiring, it was bittersweet for you. I know how highly you think of her. So you trust and respect your superintendent. Your superintendent trusts and respects you. Your assistant superintendent trusts and respects you, and that goes both ways, right? That has to exist in order for this relationship to be effective. But you also have to trust and respect that these different job duties exist for a reason. This duty over here, what you do with the governance, can't happen well without a strong superintendent to carry it out. And the superintendent's job of managing the district on a day-to-day basis can't happen if you don't have a committee that understands its role and sticks to its role. If you are delving outside of that, if you are going into areas that you should not be going into, it's not going to help her. It's going to make her job and her life harder. So you have to ensure that you trust and respect each other on a human level, and that you trust and respect that these roles, which are found and defined in Mass General Law, exist that way for a reason. If you trust and respect each other, and if you trust and respect the roles and the way they are defined, you will earn the trust of your community. It's a very simple formula, but it's one that sinks school districts if it's not followed. And by the way, if you don't earn the trust of your community, you're not going to get reelected. And then somebody else may be coming in to make a lot of different decisions with a very different looking committee. Don't have that on your conscience. Do this the right way. Again, I'm sure you are. And you know why I'm sure is because I never hear anything bad about Easton. There are other communities where I open the daily ed that we send out at MASC, or I turn on and I'm like, I know I'm going to read something about this district, right? And it's because they're struggling to get to a place where they can operate effectively and operate the right way. You don't have that here. Continue to do what you're doing. Do it the right way. And remember that these roles exist this way for a reason. And if you're ever in doubt, you can call me anytime, or you can refer to this presentation and say, you know what, I'm going to be asking that question, but it seems a little bit more procedural, or it seems like something that I shouldn't be getting super involved with because that's not appropriate. There's no shame in that. There's no weakness in saying that, you know what, I might not be able to have anything to do about this. In fact, that's a strength. And your community will appreciate that because they'll see the school district running efficiently. Respect and understand those roles. So what do you do? As a school committee, you're the municipal legislature for your schools. These are all of the things that you can do. You establish educational goals for the district. Do you have a strategic plan? Okay, and that was approved by the school committee. Congratulations, you've established your educational goals. You enact policies, which you were just discussing policy right before I got here, right? You approve and monitor the district-wide budget, not the budget for each individual school, the district-wide budget. You hire and evaluate the superintendent, as you will be doing very soon. And again, on all collective bargaining agreements, you're the employer of record. Those are the things that you are tasked with doing by Mass General Law. I want to say another word on superintendent versus school committee roles. I'll preface this by saying I am a school committee member, right? I am one of you. Anybody can get elected to the school committee. Anybody. How many signatures do you need to run for school committee in Easton?
50.
50? Okay. Go to the supermarket for 3 hours. You'll get more than that. You'll get double that. You take it down to town hall. And if nobody else runs against you, congratulations. You did it. You're on the school committee, right? Conversely, your superintendent has been in education for how long? 35 years. She started as a classroom teacher, worked her way up. Were you a principal? You were a principal. Were you an assistant superintendent? Assistant superintendent? And now you're the superintendent. How long have you been the superintendent? 9 years. My goodness. Good for you. That's a lot of practical experience. That's a lot of education. That's a lot of professional development. She goes through all of that in order to make the difficult decisions that impact the district every single day in the management of the district. The nicest way possible, you and I are just a couple people who turned in 50 signatures. She's qualified to make the decisions. You as citizens are tasked with evaluating those decisions, which makes sense, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But I want to make sure that you know, and anybody watching at home, all 7 people watching at home, understand that there's that definition between the roles for a reason, for many reasons, but one of the most important is that these people go through this process for years and years to get to this point. There are 240-something superintendents in the state of Massachusetts. There's thousands of school committee members. This is not the same, right? So why do we set goals? Goal setting is the process by which a school board exercises its leadership. If the board doesn't set goals, special interest groups will. Sometimes those special interest groups tend to be the teachers' union, right? If the community isn't seeing a direction for the school district, they're going to look to the people they see and associate the most with the school district for that direction, and that's their teachers, right? I'm sure you love your educators in Easton. I'm sure you have a good relationship with the Easton Education Association.
Easton
Yep.
Educators.
Okay, I'm sure you have an awesome relationship with them. There's going to be competing concerns sometimes, and you are the ones tasked with setting the direction and setting the goals of the district. Don't let somebody else do it. Setting goals enables you as a school committee and as a superintendent to keep the district on a continuous track of improvement. And it lets employees in the community know where the district is headed. If I'm a very talented teacher, I'm somebody that is widely regarded as a talented teacher who could go anywhere, teach anywhere. If I'm working in a district that doesn't have a clear path forward, if I can't say to myself, I know where I'm going to be in 5 years because I'm going to be in this district and I know this district will be moving forward in an even better place. If you don't have that, are you going to want to work in Easton Public Schools? No. I'll tell you right now, my cousin works in Easton Public Schools. Very well regarded in terms of, he regards the schools very well. I don't know how you regard him, but he's been here a long time. I think he's your wrestling coach. I know he wants to stay, so I know that's not an issue for all of you. But if you do your job the right way, you'll keep that reputation going. If you let it go to the wayside, you don't set these goals, and there's no path moving forward, why would these good teachers want to stay, right? So it's your job to make sure that it all happens the right way. Here's a nifty little way to envision it, right? The goals of the district are the base of your pyramid. The district goals, again, your strategic plan. What you set as the roadmap forward for your school district. That is firmly within your purview. The district goals inform your school improvement plans, the goals of your superintendent, and the goals of your school committee. A couple words on these. School improvement plans are approved by the superintendent, not by you. Superintendent probably brings them to you for your edification, but they're approved by her and not by you. You do approve the goals of the superintendent. It's part of the evaluation process. And your school committee goals should be goals that you could establish. You don't have to, it's not legally mandated, but you could establish school committee goals. We certainly believe it's a best practice for you to establish goals that will better help you fulfill the role that is set forward for you. So that's what we mean by school committee goals. So your district goals are set by the school committee, and they inform your school improvement plans, your superintendent goals, and your school committee goals. Those goals, therefore, inform your administrator goals, the building leaders, the people who are carrying forward the superintendent's orders every single day. The goals of the administrators, therefore, inform your teacher goals, the educators, the people who are on the front lines of educating your children on a daily basis. If your district goals are clear, if your district goals are up to date, if your district goals make sense, if they inform your school improvement plans, your superintendent's goals, and your school committee goals, then those will inform your administrator goals, and those will inform your teacher goals. If your district goals are clear, your teacher goals will be clear. If your district goals are clear, your administrative goals will be clear. If all of this happens the right way, if all of this works in conjunction with one another, you will provide for student achievement. I say to you again, it's a very simple equation. And again, you, as a school committee, have a direct role here and a direct role here. That's it. You have no involvement with your administrative goals directly. You have no involvement with your educator goals directly. But your goals, the goals that you set for the district as a path forward, inform everything else. So it's incredibly important that you do that duty diligently. I'm sure you put together a working group to come up with your school improvement plan, your district strategic plan, yes. I'm sure you did that the way that districts are moving towards doing that now, and then you folks were involved and reviewed it thoroughly and approved it. That's really good. You've done that job the right way, because now you have solid district goals, a path forward, a map forward that will improve, that will inform all of these and help improve your district every single day. Again, none of this happens in isolation. Everything builds up and everything happens in dialogue with one another. You can't have these things happening in silos. Let's talk about policy next. What is policy? Policy uses clear statements to set forth the purposes and prescribes in general terms the organization and programs of a school district. We lifted that directly from Mass General Law. Policy creates a framework within which the superintendent and staff can discharge their duties with positive direction. And policy has to be adopted by the school committee. Policy is the what and why of the district, which is why it falls under the governance. But procedure is the how it happens, which is why it falls under the administration and not under you. I'll give you an example. It would be an example of a policy to say we will train staff on an annual basis on safety training for the school district. When that training occurs, what specific training happens, who oversees that training, what happens if somebody misses a training. All of those things and more are procedural. So you set forth the policy in writing to ensure that it exists, but you don't get into the nitty-gritty of it, because then you're getting into procedure and that does not belong in your policy manual. Where can your policies be found? How many of you have read your district policy manual?
We're on the subcommittee.
We're going through it all.
Listen, if you are having trouble falling asleep one night, I highly recommend leafing through your policy manual. You'll be out in 10 minutes. It is not riveting stuff, but it's very important stuff. I would highly recommend at least being somewhat familiar with all of the sections and what they are. In case somebody in the public does ask you a question about school district policy, you can tell them, well, look, that might fall under section J. Why don't you check that? You know? Policy can be found in your student handbooks. Your student handbooks are informed by your policies directly. They can't be in conflict with one another. Your student handbooks should accurately reflect what the district puts in its policies. Policy is often found in your collective bargaining agreements, your strategic plans, the official goals, objectives, mission, and vision statements of your district. School committee minutes will hold your policies, sometimes because you'll pass them at school committee meetings. Grant applications should reflect your district policies. Legal documents filed for you by your legal counsel reflect your policies. Past practices should reflect your policies. Regional agreements have policy in them that you will need to follow. Town charters have to be followed. That's a policy you have to follow. And the budget is a policy document, right? It's also a moral document. Your budget says what you as a district believe is important enough to fund with taxpayer dollars. But your budget is a policy document. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. What is the budget, right? Those of you who just got elected, have you gone through the budget process yet?
No, we're in the process.
You're doing it right now, okay. Yep. Really fun. Budget is the school finance, how you oversee the school finance as a district. You also oversee the fiscal policy. So there's policies in your policy manual that have to do with fiscal management of the school district. As a school committee, you don't originate the budget proposal, but you see and approve the final budget proposal for the district. It originates with your staff. It originates with the superintendent and your business manager. Once the budget is passed, right? So do you have representative or open town meeting in Easton? Open? Us too. Purest form of government in the United States of America. So that body will pass your final budget. Once that happens, you monitor that budget to ensure accuracy, to establish cost centers and any transfers that may have to happen throughout those cost centers, and you have a statutory obligation to approve the warrants. How do you do that? Do you have one signer of your warrant, or?
DocuSign.
Okay.
It goes to all of us.
It goes to all of you. Gotcha. Okay, and that's in your policies.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent.
Our policy is that a majority has to sign it.
Gotcha.
But
Yep.
we all end up most of the time signing.
Gotcha. Yep, that was how most districts would do it. During COVID, it was changed that you could vote to have one person sign your warrants. You just had to vote that as your new policy as a committee. So if you have a way that works for you, great. As long as you're fulfilling your legal obligation to oversee the warrants of the school district. This is personnel, another area over which you have very limited oversight. Congratulations. You hire and contract with one person, the superintendent of schools. You also hire and retain your legal counsel. Who's your legal counsel?
Stone and Chandler and Miller.
Gotcha. Okay. They're widely known and well regarded, right? I'm sure you have a good relationship with them. Yep. They're your legal counsel. You hire and retain them. That is totally up to you. You have advise and consent on a couple other positions. The assistant superintendent, the school business manager, the director of special education, typically the head school nurse, the school physician, and the attendance officers. Do you still have an attendance officer? I always ask because like 95% of the time it's no. I have been in like 3 districts where they're like, yeah, we don't have one in Marshfield. You don't need one. It's one of those antiquated things, but it is still in the law, so I will tell you about it. Advise and consent is interesting. Advise and consent does not mean that you have the final say over who gets hired in any of those positions. Advise and consent has not really been tested legally, but essentially what the law says is that you cannot unduly withhold your consent for the hiring of any of these positions, which essentially means the superintendent sets the parameters by which these positions are hired. The superintendent decides the entire process. The superintendent chooses who to hire, presents you with that person, and then you ensure that that person meets the base legal qualifications in order to fulfill that job. And then you cannot unduly withhold your consent. You may not like the candidate they choose. It may not be the favorite candidate that you had in that process. That doesn't mean you can say no. You can say no if they don't have the proper certifications. That's it. We never see that happen because superintendents aren't going to bring you somebody who doesn't meet those requirements. So advise and consent is a little interesting. It's a little untested, but the law is pretty clear that you can't withhold your consent unduly. You do establish the personnel policy of the district. You establish the compensation of the folks who work for the district. And again, on collective bargaining agreements, you're the employer of record. This is what we do at Charting the Course. We always end with this quote when we're talking about roles and responsibilities. It seems like the photo got messed up with the text again. That should say Edmund Burke. Your representative owes you not their industry only, but their judgment, and they betray you instead of serve you if they sacrifice it to your opinion. It's just a really pertinent little quote about what you're elected to do. You're not elected to do whatever the community thinks is popular at all times. You're elected to use your judgment to decide what's best for students. That's the end of my roles and responsibilities presentation. I'm going to move on to describing some other services that we have, but now may be a good time before we do that to answer any questions you may have or any comments you may like to make.
So, committee members, Mrs. Pruitt, Dr. Cabral, please.
I have some, but you guys.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you. So my question is if a community member or a teacher in the community approaches you in the supermarket, like an example you gave, a situation, and we ask, have you brought this to the teacher, have you brought this to the building principal, have you brought this to the superintendent? No. Is it appropriate or not appropriate for us to then bring it to the chair, to bring it to the superintendent, or wait for the natural due process, or the proper due process that it should be of going to the teacher, whatever?
You should establish some kind of answer to that in your operating protocols. Do you have operating protocols?
We're working on them right now.
Good, excellent. That should be something that's in your operating protocols. My professional suggestion to you would be that it is a very slippery slope to get involved in individual student issues, and that you never should as a school committee. As a school committee member, don't ever put yourself in a position where you are even remotely close to talking about individual student issues. And these are typically what they are, right? So, I mean, if it's one thing if it's like, hey, the bushes outside of whatever building have been overgrown for a really long time and need to be addressed. Not the worst thing in the world for you to say, I'll pass that along to the superintendent. But if it's, hey, my kid's in this class and this happened, so we say, hey, listen, I actually can't talk to you about individual student issues. I understand the desire to do that with me as a school committee member, but actually I only have oversight in certain areas, and it would be inappropriate for me to get involved. You can use those as opportunities to educate the community on what you can and can't do. And then you say, look, I'm sorry that you're going through that. I can't get involved with that, but I highly encourage you to reach out to these people who can help you.
What about if it's an educator in the community who is an educator in the district who is also a member of the community?
Yep.
So it's kind of a...
They don't report to you, and it's inappropriate for them to be asking you as a school committee member to address things. Sometimes the answers are not the easiest answers to help people feel better.
No, but it's nice to hear that there is an answer,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Other questions? Comments?
Yeah, I guess just to piggyback on yours, and I think I had another one, I'm new as well, but to piggyback on yours, part of our meeting process is that we take, feedback from the public. Comments with public comment. Thank you, the words are not coming to me then.
You're good.
Public comment at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
And that we don't respond to public comment.
Correct. Yep. Good move.
Yes, there are times where public comment are the things that we should not be addressing, right? It is not the purview of the school committee. So you brought a public comment, you came, you were concerned about a situation in the building, we don't respond. Like, so I've often wondered if we, in those moments, should either say, great, we'll thank you for that, that is a school committee item, we'll think about that in a future meeting, or thank you for that, but that is not a school committee item, you should bring that to your building principal. Like, we just thank you for that and move on, but I often wonder if sometimes that can confuse people as to what is the purview of the school committee, because we don't note the times when it is not the purview of the school committee and is brought up in front of the school committee.
So when you start public comment, your chair, it's totally appropriate for the chair to discuss the parameters of public comment. You could also throw in a sentence that says, please keep in mind the school committee has a very limited role that oversees the following things. Here's the problem with responding that way. After somebody speaks, saying, we hear you and that is, or, it might not be, right? You'd be speaking for the whole committee, which you can't do. You don't know how everybody thinks on this. You don't know if everybody wants this on the next agenda or not.
I understand, I meant for the chair to say, okay, we can do it that for a future item, not for me personally,
Right.
Just more of a,
Yeah,
I
the
guess
chair
what I
should
struggle
say
with is,
yeah.
that is or is not the purview of the school committee. Like, we'll take that into consideration, or that is not for us to take into
I
consideration,
would-
is the thing I struggle
Yeah,
with.
But if it's
so I
not the
think-
purview of the school committee, then it shouldn't be our opinion, or even the chair's opinion, if it's something that we should.
Correct.
Right, yes, I guess that's what I was trying, my point was, I feel like the point that you're making is that there are many things that are not the purview of the school committee.
Right.
And there are things that are.
Yep.
The public continues to struggle to understand that, and that creates, I think, frustration at times for them, because they want us to hear the community perspective, and that's great, and we do want to hear the community perspective so that we can make an informed decision of their perspective. However, at the same time, sometimes things come up that I do wish I could remind them that it is out of our ability to.
So I think, so I do say, public comment, this is how long you have, this is,
Good, yeah.
we're not gonna respond, we can only, keep it to what is in our
You're
purview.
asking for an open meeting law violation if you respond, which I'm sure you all know.
Right, so, but what I like what you just said was maybe a little more specific, like, keep the comments to what's in the school committee purview.
You can't ask them to keep the comments to that. You can say just a friendly reminder that the school committee's so essentially in public comment, they can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't stop them unless they're threatening somebody. Or talking about, or ruining somebody's privacy rights, right? Like if they're getting up there talking about any one of you, they have the right to do that, right? You're elected officials. The superintendent is a public official. They have the right to say, unfortunately, whatever they want when it comes to all of you, as long as they're not threatening you or your family. But if they get in here and they say, hey, Mrs. Smith at this school is terrible because, that's when you as the chair can step in and say, look, that's, you know, this person has a right and an expectation of privacy, and we're not going to do that in a public meeting.
Thank you. I guess I just feel so bad for the frustration because there are times when we can't do anything. Like I hear you, I can't help you. You know, there's moments of like, that was lovely to share.
Government
It's not in
can
our
be,
purview.
local government
Yeah.
can be frustrating.
Yeah.
It's use every opportunity you can to educate folks, but do it beforehand, right? Yeah. But
So-
it's a good question.
So if we say, like, you know, just as a reminder, what's in the school committee purview, and then we go superintendent,
If the evaluation of the superintendent,
the budget,
the district-wide budget,
district.
district-wide policy, and the district-wide goals. 4 things.
I think that'll be good to add.
Awesome. Did you have something?
I know.
Okay. Did you have another question? You said you had.
I'll look at my notes.
So I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're just gonna give you a couple of examples.
Yeah.
Try to change facts a little. So, for example, a practice in a building that staff has been used to, it's not part of the collective bargaining agreement. It's been going on for a while. Administration, district-wide administration wasn't aware of it. When they found out about it, they said, we can't do that anymore. Staff is upset. Administration's trying to work with them, but they're trying to pull the school committee into those decisions as well.
It's not your decision. And you know what the key phrase there? I knew what my answer was going to be as soon as you started talking, because you said at a building. You don't have the ability to tell people how to run your buildings. You set policy for the district as a whole, but when something's going on in the building and there's controversy over something and they're trying to pull you in, that's going to happen all the time. Superintendent has the authority over those things, unless it's directly conflicting with your policies, in which case you evaluate the superintendent based on how well the policies are followed. That doesn't mean you order the superintendent to change how that's done in the building. You'd be overstepping.
I mean, I know the answer to a lot of these, but I think it's good to.
Sure.
So a parent is unhappy with the school-specific policy addressing adding or dropping a class. The school committee
That's a
involved.
procedure, it's not a policy, so you can't get involved.
Here's another school building one. School building administration discontinues a celebration, which has been a tradition. Parents want school committee to get involved.
It's not district-wide policy, it has nothing to do with the budget, it has nothing to do with district-wide goals.
Can I just ask a
Yeah.
follow-up on that?
Yeah.
What if it is, what if it is the celebration, for example, was celebrated in all schools and now is no longer?
Still individual school-based decisions.
That's, yeah, I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, to cover that
Yep.
all 4 schools make the same decision.
Yes. Yep, individual school-based decisions. Nothing the school committee can do.
While setting the school calendar, administrators and teachers request a start date that's different from the ones the parents want. We get emails from both sides.
Yep.
You need to start here because of this.
Yep.
We don't like it because it started there. What is our role with the calendar?
You set the district calendar, so, because that's district policy with the calendar. A lot of the times, start date will be negotiated in collective bargaining.
Yeah, ours.
Yours is not?
Well, sort of. There's like cutoffs.
Okay, so then you as a school committee determine that.
Okay.
So that is in your purview.
So it's within our purview, but in terms of who we should be listening to, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yep.
Do we give different weights to the different groups? Do we just kind of use our best judgment?
What's in the best interest of students? Parents matter, staff matters, taxpayers matter. Nothing matters as much as students. If parents don't like what's best for students, or if staff to be coming at it from a position of what they think is best for students, but it's up to you to use your judgment.
Okay. So we oversee the district-wide budget.
Yes, you do.
So a school wants to, or the superintendent wants to add a position.
Okay.
A specific teacher position, a specific administrator position, something.
Certain positions, like administrative positions, do need to be approved by the school committee. Like those things with advise and consent. Like if you're adding,
Not those,
yep,
like a building-specific administrator.
a building-specific administrator, it should be in the budget presentation as a whole, but doesn't need to be an individualized item.
What is our ability to influence whether that position, that one position is approved or not approved?
You have the conversation with the superintendent on whether or not it makes sense to have that position in the budget, and then you can make amendments to the budget. You can have those conversations and vote however you choose to vote at the end of the day on the final budget proposal. You can make an amendment to the budget and pull something out of it. You have budgetary autonomy as a school. Yes?
Since we approve the budget as a whole and not individual line items in the budget, correct?
Well, you can make amendments to the budget.
Okay. But if a situation happens that there's educators that leave the district for whatever reason, and there is payroll money for those positions, can they get allocated to another position?
That would be your duty of establishing transfers of cost centers. So when you establish a budget, you create these different, like, I guess look at them as like buckets, right? Cost centers. You determine how to establish them. But you can have a cost center for this school building, a cost center for this one. You can have this cost center as staffing. But if you want to move this money out of staffing and into this cost center, right, you can take a vote to do that.
So we would be approving that row, or we're just approving the transfer of the money?
Just transfer the money.
But if it's already in staffing, after the budget is approved.
Yep.
So budget's approved.
Yep.
Staff member leaves in
Yep.
July.
Yep.
August, a decision is made to hire a completely different position with that funding. If it's already sitting in that bucket, we have no say.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for completely coming up with a new job description, especially something that may be controversial. Those things should be run by the committee to establish those cost centers. But it is the superintendent's purview to hire personnel.
So they make, so I think that's what we're clarifying, is that while we have oversight of those lines.
Yep.
Those categories. And at the time of the budget, if a new position was submitted in one of those categories, and we had a concern about it, we could ask for an amendment to have it taken out if we so wished to do. But ultimately, it's in that category, and at that point in time,
So if you have like the budget item for like a history teacher at the high school, and then that person leaves in July, and you say, we're not gonna fill that position anymore, and I'm gonna take this money and establish 3 new, lunch staff positions at this school, that would be a transfer of cost center.
From one school to the other school.
Right.
But what if it's in the
Exactly.
same school?
It's still a transfer of cost center because you're going from an educator position to a position that might not be an educator position.
What if
But
they're
if you're
already-
taking it from the history department and allocating it to the English department, that's in her purview.
or hiring a head of department.
Department head is interesting. I would talk to your legal counsel about that.
Not to split too many hairs, but I guess within the
I
school
don't
year.
have any.
Within the school year, in theory, it could be within the superintendent's purview, and then I'm just more explaining so I understand. End of year, new budget comes up. We as a school committee could say, within reason, take that $100,000, we want to reduce that bucket by the $100,000 salary of that position that was not filled. And then move it somewhere else for the new budget year.
Yep.
What if it's the same position? So, history teacher at the high school resigns. Principal superintendent want to hire that history teacher back.
Yep. You
School
have nothing
committee
to do with
thinks
that.
we don't need that other history teacher.
You allocated the money. Superintendent has stated that they believe they need that history teacher, the money's allocated.
What about in the next year's budget? Could we say we want that money pulled out of that for that history teacher?
Sure. What's best for students, right? Other questions?
Can you just go over a little more about our role with personnel, meaning if somebody has a complaint about a teacher, a staff member?
Sure, it should
an
never go to you.
administrator.
It's not appropriate. If they have complaints about the superintendent, it can go to you and you factor into the superintendent's evaluation. But, I mean, if somebody comes to you and says, this principal's doing it, you say, look, I'm not the one who supervised this person, talk to the superintendent. If somebody comes to you and says, look, this teacher over here is terrible, you say, look, go talk to the building principal, I have nothing to do with that.
Any other questions, follow-ups?
Voice of students. So I think that's an area that can be misinterpreted to become a reason why we should get more involved in things that aren't our purview.
Okay.
And that it is, lots of community members will come forward trying to give voice to their student, as you said before, whether it's a faculty member saying this is what, if the staff is happier, the students are happier, here's what we're looking at, or here's what I'm observing students need. You should know what students need in the building, they need X, Y, or Z, or whether it's a series of parents saying, my kiddo is in kindergarten and they can't speak for themselves, therefore you should listen to my voice instead.
Yep.
I think it is often difficult for us to make, we have to use our judgment.
Yes.
But there's an informed decision that gets made, and that decision is formed by the relationship and the information that gets presented here, right? There was information publicly presented to us about what's needed for students.
Right.
When individuals try to provide us information that they believe is counter to what was presented here. What was presented at the school committee meeting is not right because in building XYZ, I saw ABC happen, and therefore you should know that because what you were told is not true. What do we do? Because we can't run around and talk to every little kid or ask to go into the building and witness it ourselves, right? But we're trying to represent the children. We're receiving information from highly informed educators who are presenting information to us.
Yep.
They bring it to us.
Yep.
And then we leave and we get the, you don't really know, but my kiddo says X, Y, Z.
That's always going to happen.
It always happens. So thank you. And move on? Do we ask more questions at a future time? Like what? Because it's one of those moments of like, well, you're supposed to represent my kid. You should hear X, Y, Z from my child.
I appreciate it. That's helpful for me. Talk to the superintendent if you feel it's necessary, and you use your judgment. But it happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
Yep.
And we make the most informed decision we can. And I always
Exactly.
say, I wish I knew that before the school committee meeting.
Yep.
If you looked at the agenda, informed me. But
Right.
I think there is that perception of, but then you school committee need to represent my kiddo, and use, and therefore you should know these other things.
They have a right to disagree with what you do.
Sorry.
A couple of years ago, I once heard from another school committee member in another district, something that I kind of always refer back to in my head, is that public school is not for your kid, it's for everyone's kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Every student is entitled to free and appropriate public education.
So it kind of puts things into perspective, what, like, I'm sorry if that didn't work out for your kid, but it helped, but it's for the greater good of.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Anything else?
That's a very nice comment to end that discussion on, because you're absolutely right. So, what can MASC do for me? Here's some things that we provide as services. Some of the bigger parts of our job. Charting the course, which is legally required for new members. If anybody out here still has not taken charting the course, no judgment whatsoever. It happens. Please make sure you do so. It is in Mass General Law that you have to be trained. You have? Good job. That is not...
It's a great watch.
Yeah, really? Oh, and Mashpee, that's right. Oh, yeah, the one we just did. That's right.
Nice spread.
That's very good. We're doing it again in Quincy on Saturday. But we've got a different thing here. We do a really good bagel place that I'm very excited about. We offer learning lunches. We have them tomorrow. We do those once a month on Fridays. It's at noon. And it's typically an expert in some kind of field discussing some kind of issue. So tomorrow's learning lunch is about some kind of data presentation. I forget exactly what it is. But I'll be there with my bells on. We provide opportunities for networking with neighboring school districts through your division. You guys are Division 3, correct? Yeah, Barbara Davis is your division chair, and she probably sends out information to you on, hey, Division 3 is having a meeting then. You can go and sit down with people and say, hey, I'm from Easton. Where are you from? Oh, you're from Taunton. That's great. You know. We provide trainings and workshops. That's what we're doing right now. I'll go over what trainings and workshops, like some examples of trainings and workshops that we provide if it interests you. We provide resource documents. We have a lot of documents online that may be helpful for you. masc.org is our website. You can go on there and see our resource documents. We provide you with access to your field director. Hi. Jackie has my cell. You can call or text me anytime. I have 102 school districts in my district. It's a lot. But I will get back to you as soon as humanly possible. Sometimes I'll pick up the phone right away and we'll get it sorted out. Sometimes it might take me 24 to 48 hours. Depends on my week. This week is a little lighter for me. Last week was crazy because I was on the vineyard. Next week I'm doing stuff with Whitman Hanson all week because if you haven't watched the news, they need a new superintendent. We can provide legal advice and opinions on rulings because we have our own in-house legal counsel. And sometimes you'll get emails from us providing some more insight into those things. I am not a lawyer. I will not provide you with legal advice. And in fact, one of the things I may say to you the most is you should check with your legal counsel. Use that relationship. We have monthly newsletters that go out in the mail. Do you guys get our newsletters? You all on our mailing list? Good. Those are like riveting stuff. We provide periodic policy and legal update newsletters as needed. That will happen through the mail and online. You can access all of those past ones on masc.org. We also provide legislative advocacy for you. We have a staff of 9, and there are 2 of us that handle legislative advocacy. I'm one of those 2 with my 10 years of experience in the State House. I'm very excited. When you leave the State House, you have to spend a set amount of time cooling off, meaning you can't lobby your old employer for a set amount of time. My cooling off period expires February 18th, and I can't wait to actually be your voice at the State House as school committee members. But we provide that advocacy to you free of charge because you're members of MASC. I'm very excited to go up there and tell all these legislators what they should be doing. Although I would never ever tell Claire Cronin when she was in the House what she should be doing because she knew exactly what she should be doing. And then you get a Mass General Laws book every single year. Do you have that? Everybody has that big, thick, heavy book that is compiled for you.
We'll bring it next week.
I apologize, it's sitting on my table. I ran out of the office.
You just don't want to give it up, right? Because
I
it's so
know.
valuable and useful. Yeah, that is compiled by MASC for you every single year. Any law that you could conceivably think of in Massachusetts that has to do with education, policy, anything like that is in that book. It can be helpful for you. Here's some of the trainings and workshops we provide. Roles and responsibilities and ethics. You can check those 2 off. Goal setting. We do workshops and help in establishing school committee goals. We don't do strategic plans. That's not something MASC does at this time. But we do goal setting for school committees specifically. And I know we had discussed that earlier. It's goals that pertain directly to your job performance and your job duties. We do workshops on operating protocols. I know you said you're going through that process right now. That's awesome. Every district should have a good set of operating protocols. You should revisit those on an annual basis, and you should ask yourselves periodically throughout the year, are we following our operating protocols? That helps you govern yourselves effectively, and it also helps you best work with your superintendent and not drive her absolutely crazy. We offer a workshop on superintendent evaluation, which I know is sometimes a very convoluted process. We offer a workshop on school finance. We call it 70 on 70 because it's roughly 70 minutes and it's on Chapter 70. I don't do that one. Budget is my weak area when it comes to presenting these things. I know about the budget, but I certainly don't know about it as much as Tracy Novick in our office, who is the field director for Central Mass. So Tracy and I, there's 4 field directors. Tracy is Central Mass. I'm, as you know, Boston all the way down. Tracy is fantastic. They're all great. The whole staff is wonderful.
From her all the time.
Yeah, Tracy is wonderful. So if you ever needed some budget help, I would be able to work with you to schedule that with Tracy. She's booked out through April right now because it's budget season and because she's Tracy. She loves this stuff. We provide workshops on special education. We provide workshops on communication and community engagement. We provide some workshops and training on school councils. We provide workshops on collective bargaining, and we provide workshops on open meeting law. Half the time people are being proactive and asking for those open meeting law workshops. The other half of the time they've broken the open meeting law and the Attorney General says, you need a workshop on open meeting law. So we come in and do that. Here are some of the online resources we have available to us. We have some publications on executive session to kind of give you a better idea of what executive session is, what reasons exist for you to enter into executive session. There's that specific list of 10 reasons to enter into executive session. You can't do it for something that's off the list. We offer a document on role of the chair to better understand what the chair is supposed to be doing. We offer documents on norms and protocols. We offer documents on the evaluation of the superintendent. We offer documents on Robert's Rules of Order, on school budget and finance. We have a school committee member handbook that we're very proud of that you could look at if you're interested in that. We have our past bulletins and newsletters right there available on our website that you could look through and see all of the things that happened throughout the last however many years. We have a full library of MASC model policies.
Yes, I've been spending a little time.
Have you? Isn't it so much fun? Yeah, so that exists for you if you are going through that process and you need to look at some of our model policies. As well as I said earlier, we provide new policies when a new law comes down. We periodically revise our model policies and we'll let you know when we do that and why we're recommending that you change your policies as well. There's a roles and responsibilities guide that is somewhat similar to the presentation I just gave you. And you also have access and membership to the MASC listserv, which is like a community forum of school committee members to say, hey, who's dealing with this issue? Be careful with that. Obviously use it and see what's going on, but don't break the open meeting law on it because you all have access to it. So don't go on it, Jim, and say, you know, I'm going to vote this way on this issue because they can all see that and you've just broken the open meeting law. So don't do things like that. Here's some paid services or benefits we offer. Everything I just said to you is included in your dues, free of charge. So you pay dues to MASC. Every single school district in Massachusetts, save for 2, are member districts of MASC. So we're very proud of that. MASC, if you don't know, was founded in the 1940s by Tip O'Neill, which is pretty cool. So most of our services are provided to you free of charge because you pay your dues to us. But there are some specific things that we have as paid services. We do policy projects. Those cost $10,500. We will sit down with you and go over every single one of your policies. It is typically a process that takes 2 to 3 years. So I'm working on one right now with the Tri-County Regional District, and we're almost done. But I inherited it from somebody else, and it's been a multi-year process. And we meet once a month, and we get half a section done every time we do it. We do online policy manual hosting. It makes it easier to search your policy manuals. Do you guys do that with us? No?
Yes.
If you're interested in it, there's more information on our website. I'm not here to pitch it to you. I'm not here to sell it to you, but if that's something that you want to find more info on, please do. We do superintendent searches, which I know we discussed recently at length. And I know that you are focusing on some other things right now and that you'll keep me updated, which is very exciting. We have our annual conference. Oh, I'm sorry, I kept the dates in of our last conference. I should have taken that out. We just had her in. Did anybody come to the conference?
I came.
How awesome was it?
It was awesome.
Yeah? Good.
You encouraged me to reach out to all the chairs in the surrounding districts to try to set up a meeting.
Excellent. Awesome. I love that. Have you done that?
We're setting a date now.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Will you keep me updated?
Yeah.
If I can come to it, I will.
Okay.
I'd love that.
Okay, great.
If you'd like to invite me,
Of course.
not to step on your toes. So our annual conference is something that you can pay to attend. I highly recommend you look at it for this year. We're actually switching locations. We're no longer going to be down the Cape. We'll be up in,
Berkshires.
I wish. No, it'll come to me. It's somewhere up north. Day on the Hill is coming up. It's coming up in March. You'll get some information about this last week of March. I think it's the last Monday of March.
We had a great time last
So
year.
fun.
Good. Isn't it awesome?
Yeah, we always have a group of students that come with us.
That's
too.
Good.
Yeah.
10 minutes. They got to go over so.
Yeah.
So I will tell you this, as a former staffer at the State House, everybody in the State House looks forward to Day on the Hill
Oh, yeah?
because
of the food?
the culinary students come in.
Yes,
That does not happen
Yes.
at the State, and it's like, oh my God, free food, the staff flocks to it.
Yeah.
That's really good
They
for
do
our
a
legislative
really good
priorities.
job, too.
But Day on the Hill is absolutely a good use of your time.
Yeah.
We're changing some things about it this year. The other person handling legislative advocacy is a man named Anthony Andronico. Anthony is our operations director at MASC. Anthony and I worked together at the State House and have been friends for a long time. He's a former Quincy School Committee member. So he and I are kind of shifting up the way that we do things at Day on the Hill. So we'll be training you a little more on what our legislative priorities are, and then asking you to be intentional about going to your legislators' offices. Do you have any relationship with your state legislators?
Yeah, they've all turned over recently, but last year
That's
on
right.
the Day on the Hill, we had, one of our reps hadn't been voted in yet, but we met with our senator and our reps. Yeah.
Gotcha. Is it Senator Brady?
No, it's Driscoll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I worked
Yeah.
pretty closely with Bill.
Okay.
Really nice guy.
Yeah.
And then is Bridget your?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were staff together.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
great.
okay.
She's
Oh.
really awesome.
Okay.
So you've got good legislators
Yeah.
who will, I'm sure, be interested in speaking with you, and if they're not available, their staff will be.
Yeah.
So we're going to be asking you to go to their offices to talk about the legislative priorities that will make your jobs easier, but more importantly, make districts
Yeah.
function as best
Yeah,
as
no,
they
they were
possibly
great
can.
last year. They made time for
Bridget
us.
was like 2 days on the job.
Yeah.
Was she?
Yeah.
I love her. She's
Yeah,
awesome.
she was awesome.
Yeah, she's really great. And then we have a summer institute every year. Sometimes we used to do it just as like a day of workshops, and it was like random little workshops. Last year we switched it up, and it could not have gone better. We did one topic, collective bargaining, and it was all about collective bargaining. We don't know if it's going to be collective bargaining again this year, if we're going to choose a different topic, but it was all little breakout sessions on collective bargaining strategies and things like that. So that got rave reviews, so please keep an eye out for Summer Institute information as well. That will likely be in July. And then the final thing here is this is my contact information. Please keep this. My job, I take my job very seriously, and a big part of my job is to help you avoid open meeting law violations. It's to help you do your job to the very best of your ability, and most importantly, it's to help you help kids. That's what it's all about. It's about kids. And by the way, I don't just help school committee members. I will help superintendents anytime. I will help assistant superintendents anytime. If you have any questions on school committee procedures, anything like that, please call. That's what we're here for.
So we are, our superintendent advisory committee has just been set up.
Mhm.
We're going to start meeting 2 weeks. If it's okay, I'd like to send you kind of our outline of how we're thinking of running it
Please.
and kind of get your input.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're here for. So if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to call. I don't work 9 to 5, right? You know, I work when I'm needed to work. So, for example, I was in the office today at 9 o'clock, and I was in the office until 4:30, and then I came down here. So a lot of times my days are longer than 9 to 5. So my point is, if it's 7 o'clock, don't be afraid to call me. Call
Any
me on
other
weekends.
questions or comments? Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
out.
I appreciate
This
you
has
having
been
me.
really great. This
Good.
was-
I hope
this
so.
was really great,
I'm
yeah.
always happy to come back if you ever need me.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, hit me.
What are you most excited about lobbying for? What is going to be like the first thing you do? Is it going to be bus companies? I hope it is.
So there's a bill by Representative Badger
Yes.
about the bus companies.
Really?
I am very excited about that.
I think we all are.
But you know what? But you know, it's a very boring answer, but it's a very important answer. Chapter 70.
Oh, yes.
School districts are getting croaked right
Yeah.
now. Everybody is in a budget deficit. Every
Yeah.
single town and community is in a budget
That
deficit.
listening tour that the state did,
Mhm.
we went to the online one,
Yep.
and it was really incredible how, like you said,
Mhm.
everyone is just, districts that never used to struggle are just.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah.
And the state needs to step in and do something about it because communities can't right now, and students will suffer.
Yeah.
So that's the pitch, right?
Urban,
Yep.
suburban.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's
It knows no bounds.
it
It
is
does
a
not discriminate.
broken system.
It is. It is. So I'm very excited about the bus one. I am. And I'm glad you said that because now I'll take it even more and say, I know
Yeah.
Easton's behind me on it.
Yes, most definitely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second. First and second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. It is 7:59.
Recordings.